Onward Shifts Podcast. Today we have an incredible story to share with an incredible human being. Adam, hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good, you?
Can't complain. I can't complain, and I'm genuinely excited to hear your story. I know we've been chatting on LinkedIn, and yeah, from our brief conversation, you've got a story to share, and I'm excited to hear it. But a quick introduction would be.
From a career point of view, I'm a construction director on hyperscale data centers. I'm currently working in Holland. I've been in the construction industry now since I was 18, and I'm coming up 60, although I obviously don't look it. From a construction point of view, I started as a duct director's mate, did as many courses as I could over the years, like outside of any college, school, whatever. Made my way up to get my chartership with the Chartered Institute of Builders, and poacher turned gamekeeper. Really, I made my way up from starting at the bottom to this is obviously my last step, construction director. It doesn't come no higher than that one, but it's I've got where I've got to be quite honest. Didn't leave school with much of an education. Well, qualifications, but I obviously come out with something because I'm not totally stupid. Yeah, I wasn't a studious pupil, if that makes sense. I was more the other way, a nuisance to the teacher. So I've not done too bad.
Fair play. And when you talk about what would you like? How can we say, like a troublesome kid? I can actually relate to that. I failed my GCSEs, and I'm quite familiar with being a naughty boy.
Just a character. I just I was into everything that was probably annoying to everyone else. I was in a mixed school, like the girls. Loved playing football, did all the sports, got into all the sports teams and all that stuff. Yeah, I was just didn't really see the point of school, if that makes any sense to you. But and the thing with it was that my dad worked for a small independent welding company. So every school holiday, I used to go to work, and every Saturday morning during school terms, I used to go to work. And my dad used to do the welding. Someone else would grind down all the welds, and I would paint it all. So that was what I did every summer. So I always had the best clothes, and I always had when Sergio Tacchini and stuff like that and Fila originally come out. I was the flash little sod on the estate that had the stuff, because from probably 13, 14, I was working. And I think that went a long way to me not really worrying about school, because I knew I had a job when I left school.
So that makes sense.
So I think, that didn't really help. The fact that instead of thinking I should have got an education, I was off painting, and when I was 17 and I passed my driving test, I went out and got a Cortina, and that was paid for cash. And so I was always saving a little bit of money for the good things. So I think that's what ruined the education thing, and not really being interested.
Yeah, for sure. And you said your dad was a welder. Is that right?
Yeah, my dad was. My dad was a welder and used to do a lot of internal security systems for like NatWest Bank and places like that. So all different forms of welding. So I would go down there and just do the easy bit, the painting, just get everything nice and ready for getting quality assured and signed off, and they would go out and fit it. Sometimes, when I was 16, I'd go out and fit them, and we'd work all over the country. So it was good. It was interesting. But then you get to the stage where like you're 18, 19, and all 18 I was. All you do every night at the dinner table is rail with your dad about something that happened at work. That was sending my mum mad. Yeah. And that was it. I had to get away from there. So that's what started the construction thing, really.
So would you say because of your dad being in construction, that's the reason you kind of dived into that as well? Is there any other options you had available?
What it was, I went and done an interview for the post office, and I got the job. And they wrote to me, said, "Congratulations, you got the job." But the post office school didn't start for about 6 weeks, so I had nothing to do for about 6 weeks. So one of my pals, I said to him, do you need any help on the building site? He was a duct director. And he said, yeah, you can come and help me. And when I got there, I absolutely loved it. I never thought about the post office again, never turned up on the day that I was meant to turn up. And that was it. And, that was, late 80s. So mid to late 80s. So you were, it was good on building sites. I don't think we had to wear hard hats at that stage. So it was, it was just before it started becoming a little bit more regulated. So you can imagine characters. I mean, the people that were on building sites in them days were rough around the edges. It was really good fun. Really good fun.
It's mad because that means, because the Health and Safety Act come out, 1974 or something like that? 1984 or
Yeah, I
something
mean,
like that?
it was, there was safety involved, but it wasn't anything like now with hats, with glasses and high vises and gloves and everything else. Everyone was wearing shorts, probably had boots. I don't know if they were still toe capped, but the jobs you work on nowadays, we've even got long sleeve policies. You can't even walk around in a t-shirt when it's 80 degrees outside. So it's very different. Although I love the industry,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can be a little bit much compared
Yeah,
to
yeah,
what we
yeah.
had.
Well, you've kind of seen it all, haven't you? You've seen it from when it was nothing all the way to the extremes of, what
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
now. So you've
yeah,
experienced the goods and the bads of it all.
yeah, yeah. So but it's, I say to people now, it's the best industry in the world. I mean, you could literally, in my opinion, come out of prison with no prospects. You get a job as a labourer on a building site, and if you want to be that person, you could end up becoming a charge hand, you become a manager, you could become a project manager. If you want to be, if you get aspirations to progress in the construction industry, you can. To me, it's not
Absolutely.
like any other industry. It's what you want to be. So that's why I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
The other year, getting that chartership after the work I had to put into it, like not being very academic, but the work I had to put into it, it was, it was a big achievement for me. So having initials after your name was a big thing for me. So
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Alan, something you've touched on today, and it's something that I think a lot of construction workers are struggling with, and I want to know your opinion on it, and that's working away from home. So at a young age, you've been driving around the country with your old man, and then even now you're living in Holland and your kids are up in London. So how does that make you feel like? Because a lot of construction workers are struggling with that right now, traveling the world, traveling UK, only coming home on weekends and then back out again Monday morning, Sunday night.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, for instance, tonight, I don't want to correct you, but my wife and my little one are in Germany. I live in Germany now.
My
So,
apologies, my apologies.
but nonetheless, I'm away from them, so it doesn't really matter where they are. Tonight, I was talking to my wife, and she said to Henry, "Oh, come on, Dad's FaceTiming. Do you want to talk to him?"
Mm,
Not do you want to talk to him because that's the standard. Come and talk to him. And he went, "Nah." And he carried on watching telly, so she had to go over to him, and he was fine and all that stuff. But it kind of hits you, it hits you.
mm,
And then when I'm at home and I'm due to leave, like on Saturday morning, for argument's sake, no, Sunday morning, he said to me, "Right, are you going back to Holland now?" So I said, "No, I'm not going till tonight or tomorrow morning." So, he was relieved, jumped all over me. So, but when you get here, if you're anything like me, when you're in these places, I mean, I've got a lovely little flat that I'm sitting in now. I can watch the TV, I can do what I need to do, but that's it. All you've got to do is think sometimes. So for some of these people that are just starting now, years and years of being away, I would imagine it can be difficult for them.
mm.
We've really had, and it wasn't a youngster. We recently had an incident of a panic attack that someone had on site. You know,
Well,
we don't know if that person is going through matrimonial problems, whether his mum's ill, whether his wife's ill, whether she's leaving him, whether she's seeing the next door neighbour. when you're away, this can it's not like being in prison because you've got your life, but equally there's nothing you can do when someone's on the phone to you moaning about something or telling you they've got a problem or the mortgage has bounced or whatever. What can you do when you're in a different country? So I do think it's hard for some, and I do think there's plenty of people that choose to be away from being around their families because it suits them. They're the ones who probably flourish when they're away. But you get yourself in trouble as well with drink and things like that when you're away because you've not got anyone saying to you, "Oh, you make sure you went out last night. What do you want to go out tonight for?" It becomes I see you in the pub at 6 sort of thing, and then your 4 pints become 6, then it becomes 8, and then before you know it, you're getting in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you've got to be at your desk at 7 or out on site at 7, stinking a beer, which you shouldn't be doing. So.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly what I was going to say because a lot of people who do stay away from home, they end up really struggling with like gambling, alcohol, prostitution, and that massively will affect their home life as well. So the mental health journey people actually go through by staying away can actually be seriously detrimental, especially when you're young, you're in your early 20s. You got money coming through, you're bouncing around the country, it's all fun and games until you reach 31 or 32 and you're kind of like, oh, I feel it a bit now. So it was quite interesting hearing your perspective from it. And
you
as a
think of
guy,
I'm in Holland, right? So what
mm,
is Holland well known for? Prostitution
okay,
and drugs.
yeah,
So, you don't have to walk too far through Groningen to get to another bar without walking past, windows where there's women trying to entice you in and there's other people
mm,
selling cocaine and all that stuff. So for a young man, I think it's like kid in a candy shop for some of them.
yeah, for sure, 100%. But from a man's perspective, you're a family man, and you do stay away from your missus and your little one often. Uh, how do you feel about it? Like how does it impact your life, or are you kind of like happy with the way it
No,
is?
I struggle with it. I,
Do you?
yeah, I do struggle with it. I struggle with it for the simple reason that my life is a double-edged sword at the moment because I've recently, over the last few years, become severely disabled, and
Yeah.
I I go to work. The money's lovely to have, but I go to work because if I didn't go to work, not only is my body going to pack up, my brain will go with it. My brain will absolutely destroy me
Mm,
because I need to keep my mind active. So all these people that suffer from depression, anxiety, and things like that have got overactive imaginations, and they do make big problems out of little ones. I'm one of them, but now in life I've got a big problem. So before, when you'd get yourself wound up about the silly little things, they don't wind me up anymore. Because I've
mm,
got something that's a dark cloud over me all the time now. So every day for me is a battle. So yeah, it's for me now. It's I need to work for my brain, for my mental health, because being sitting around at home, whether my son's there or not, he goes to primary school or whatever, he's still out the house for so many hours a day. What would I do apart from sit and feel sorry for myself, sort of thing? So, and this work is keeping me more than active. So, you know.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your journey over the last few years. What's happened? What's gone wrong? Or how many things have gone wrong?
Um, basically everything from the chest down. I had a knee replacement surgery and I wasn't really getting over it, and really, really wasn't getting over it at all. And the knee was fine, but I still was struggling to walk. And what happened was I was in Germany for Christmas and I was so low mentally because I was really struggling to walk, but it wasn't coming from the legs. It was hard to describe. It was almost, could you imagine being the Duracell bunny hitting the drum, right? And then your battery's wearing out. But imagine that being as a human while you're walking. So you're walking along and you're feeling like, oh, I better stop. So what was happening was I was getting to the stage where even walking to the car when I worked at Canary Wharf, then the car park wasn't far. I would stop, even if I was with people, make out my phone had just gone off or I got to make a call. And then I'd lean on up against a wall or a planter or something like that. And I would just rest for a couple of minutes. Then I'd get to the car. And what I did, I put it down to my knee had been replaced. It had thrown my hips out a bit. And my back was adjusting and it was going to take a few months to get better. If everything structurally in my body to be in the right way. So left it at that. And then this Christmas in Germany, on the Christmas day, I couldn't get out of bed because I was so low. So the whole family, the in-laws, we all put it down to the fact that I was struggling and my leg was hurting and I couldn't get up. So no one really, they were all sad for me because I'd missed my son open his presents. But my head had gone, physically my body had gone. And we found this German physiotherapist, osteopath, whatever he was. And he was pulling me about and he was talking to my wife in German and he was saying, for what I've just done to him, if there was anything wrong in there, he would have hit the roof. He would have really hit the roof. But there's clearly something wrong in there. And he needs to get back to England, get an MRI done. Got the MRI done, got sent to a neurosurgeon and was so lucky that the neurosurgeon spotted that I had a spinal dural arteriovenous fistula, right?
God, it's a big word.
Yeah. But it's something that in Germany alone, there's 85 million people in Germany, and apparently about 365 people in a year get it, and 40% of them are found post-mortem. So the chances it's literally one of the rarest and one of the most misdiagnosed diseases you can get because it just shows up as little tiny dots in your spinal cord. But what they're malformations of blood vessels. So what they're doing, they cause a blockage and your spinal cord basically ruptures. So, and what happened with me, I was on the verge of rupture and I couldn't feel anything from my chest down. I just had this event where I couldn't feel anything. Ambulance come and got me, took me away, and that was it. All hell was let loose, really. I was taken into a neuro ward in Romford where people were staring at the ceiling, breathing out of their throats, on life support machines. I was in that ward. And I'm thinking, God, this is a bit over the top, because I'm around all these people that look genuinely ill. And all right, I couldn't feel my legs, but I was still me. I could still chat to the nurses and, they're going to sort me out. That's how your mind works. So they took me down for a surgery, which was an exploratory to see if they could get to where they needed to get to. Decided as a team they could get to it. The next day I went down for the surgery, which was the big one, and basically my spinal cord had a stroke during the surgery. So
what does that mean? What does that actually mean?
It means that where someone would have a stroke in their brain, where the one side of your body goes wallop, I got it straight down in my spinal cord. So what it means now is I've got spasticity in my legs. My bladder got neuropathic bladder disorder, so I have to self-catheterize. For the last 6 months, for 2 of the last 3 years, pretty much most parts of the year, I've had a catheter of some sort. I've had a suprapubic one where instead of it coming out of where it come out of, I had a suprapubic where they surgically have it coming out of your stomach, out your abdomen. So, and then just Monday morning, I had to self-catheterize for the first time. And I've only done 6 so far, but it's not pleasant, but it's kind of not as bad as I thought. So, yeah, I mean, it is, my bladder's failing as over a period of the next few years, or hopefully next 20 years. My visceral organs will fail on me, so my kidneys, my liver, basically I'll be gone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's no time on it. It's not like when you've got cancer and someone says, "Oh, you've got 6 months to live." You know, I've got all these things that are going to fail on me, but I might live to an old age and they don't fail to, for a long while. They might start after this bladder one, they might start making their way up and it might be quick. So, but let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of gobsmacked a little bit because what would have happened if that doctor in UK, the first one, didn't pick up on the disease? Like, what would have happened? Would that have been game
I'd be
over?
in I'd be in a chair. So it would be nipple line down. So
Wow.
I'd be able to move my arms and I'd be in a chair. That would be it.
And how did you feel? Like from being quite a boisterous boy to your life kind of just changing over a year. How did that make you feel?
It nearly killed me, literally.
What do you mean?
Well, I had planned how I was going to get out of this. I had it planned because I had to learn how to walk again. I've had 12 surgeries in the last 3 years, of which all of the surgeries, most of the surgeries, there was an element of hope every time you went down to be, operated on. And then I got to the stage where there was the hope, and this is the weirdest thing. You'll think it's strange, but if you were in my situation, you wouldn't think it was strange. My hope was not that they were going to fix me. My hope was that they made a mistake. If they could make a mistake while they were doing this surgery and I died on the table, then no one could blame me. My two boys would have to get used to dad died. My wife would have to get used to the fact that her husband died, but it wouldn't have been my fault, would it? It wouldn't have been like I went out and killed myself. I was actually hoping that this is the time now. You do your operation, put too much gas in or whatever. You can't wake me up.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would be
yeah.
brilliant. And when after two surgeries, when I woke up these two times, I actually was really disappointed. And I know I'm laughing about it, but you can now. And when
Yeah,
you're in the
I guess.
situation I was in, you can laugh about it because it's fact. It's very matter of fact. So I really, really wanted it to be, that's me done, game over. I don't want to do this anymore. So,
Mm.
and then
Shit.
in the meantime, I was actually, preparing. I knew the two places, the one place in England where I would do it, and I knew the place in Germany that I would do it, and very detailed. And on a PowerPoint that I do, there's a picture of the Eder Dam, one of these big dams in Germany that's famous for the Dam Busters film from the Second World War. That's a very easy wall for me to get up and sit on and jump off of. And the one in London would be where there's a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit and there's no barrier in the middle of the road, and I could just veer off into a lorry head on. But I even had it in my mind that you would start writing a text, throw your phone down in the passenger footwell, and then drive into the lorry, which would make it look like you were texting and it was an accident. That's how your mind works. It's all, the Eder Dam one would be a definite, he's jumping, that's it. But the one with a car, I would try to have made it look like it was, I made a mistake while I was texting, so yeah, so that's how bad I got. So, and I was
Well,
just waiting for another setback before I went and did it.
Alan, like I've got to say, well, one, thank God you're still here because it would not have been worth it considering you have survived all these operations and
Yeah.
you've made it through and you've still got that relationship with your kids and your wife and you can still wake up every day and share your story and help other people in that situation. So, thank God. I'm not a religious man, but thank God you didn't do anything. Like you probably already know this, but in the UK last year there were 700 suicides, and in the last decade there's been 7,000. And there's so many men talking about killing themselves and committing suicide. What can you say to them right now, those who are listening and kind of heard your story and are in the place you was not too long ago? What can you say to them right now?
What I will say is, if I could briefly tell you how I got out of it before I can say what I would say to them.
Yeah, please.
My son's best friend,
Mm.
my boy took me off to the Top Gear racetrack, the
Mm.
stick go, and you can drive like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari and all that. So my boy bought me that for my birthday. I picked up Harry, who's my boy's friend, because he lived nearer than where my son was living at the time. And I picked up Harry, and we were in the car. Harry's a lovely boy, albeit he sends me mad at times. He's almost like, like when someone's close enough, it's almost like having another son. When you're out with them, and, we went to the Euros in the summer, all the games in Germany, and it's like having another son that you've got to look out for, sort of thing, because he's chaos and he's had a drink. He's a good one. But what happened was he started talking to me in the car, and he almost had me in tears. This was before I was ever ill. This was, a few years ago. And his dad committed suicide when he was 2 or 3. And Harry has been tortured all of these years because of his dad committing suicide. And, his questions were, if my dad never got my mum pregnant, he'd still be alive. So if I wasn't here, my dad would still be alive. Or my dad didn't love me enough to want to stay around. So it was my fault. So he's lived with that all his life. And, it was heartbreaking to hear. But I had never given that thing a thought in recent years. And then what happened was Harry came over with Luke. And as soon as I see him, and with Luke as well, my boy, what would that do to him? What would that do to Luke, who's now 28, and my little boy, who's coming up to 6 in 3 weeks' time? What would it do to Henry, who's 6 years old? And that's what made me decide to start fighting harder. The Locomat walking machine and things like that. It weren't like a Rocky story, but I had the choice of giving up, which I had. I was laying in bed probably 18 hours a day, and I was sharp when I spoke to my wife. I wasn't a pleasant person to be around, so she was being punished quite severely as well, in more ways than one. She's got someone she loves seeing him in pain, in agony. Then he's talking to her like she's a bit of shit. So because he's an angry man, sort of thing. Yeah, that's what pulled me out of it. But then I started to, what I needed to get through the day, and this is what I will say to people that get sad, is you've got to look for little bits of happiness. There are, in everything, no matter how sad you get, there's always something that you like. There's always something that you always had an interest in, and you've got to try and bring that little bit of happiness, a handful of happiness, for argument's sake, every day. And you've got to try and, when you get to the stage, because I had a panic attack, and it was bad, and I'd never had one. Never had a panic attack. And it was shocking, because I felt like I was going to have an heart attack, but I didn't have no pain. So I kind of knew I weren't going to have an heart attack, if that makes sense, but I couldn't work out why I was in such a bad way and crying and all that gear. And then I started to look into, and I've said this to other people, when you see on the film someone has a panic attack and they get in the bag and they start breathing into the bag. I would say to people, because that really, really helped me, and it sounds so trivial and so pompous to say it, but you've got to get your breathing right. And it sounds really weird to say it, but every time you get these real negative thoughts, you've got to try and start to breathe and try and relax yourself, because your brain will eat away at you. So what I do to now get through is I try to have things to look forward to. And I make the things to look forward to, no matter how far away they are, I bring them right to there's only 4 more weeks until we do this. There's only, like, for instance, we're driving over to London next Wednesday. So I'm working Saturday and Sunday. I work around till Tuesday, drive home, and then I'm going home. I'm going to see some of my friends. We're going to take my son to Flamingo Park, where they've got a dinosaur bit in I think it's near Waltham Cross, Broxbourne way. We're going to do a London bus tour. Never done it in my life. I've never needed to because I'm born and bred in Islington. So, but yeah, we're going to do that. I've never seen the Crown Jewels. We might be going to see, that sort of stuff, even though I've always lived on top of it. And then when that one's over, my son will be 6. We're going to go to Denmark. We're doing Legoland and all that stuff. And
Nice.
and that's how I get by. I really try and take good things and positive things that you're going to do, and they get me through. That's how I do it. They get me through. And if people are working away and they're on rotation, that rotation's got to be the thing that's got to get you through. It's got to get you through the next. If you're on 17.4, you go in, you do your work, you know that in so many days you're going to go and do your. So that's what helps me. I'm also a firm believer of, I've got big problems. I've got physical problems. I've now got spasticity in my legs. I'm 80% disabled. There'd be some people that want to kill themselves that have not got anything near what I've got wrong with me. But it's not a competition. Your problems are your problems. And to you, they're massive. Someone else might dismiss it and go, "Of course, that a problem. She's got cancer." Well, it don't matter about what she's got, right? Their problems are their problems. And it's easy for me to say you've got to concentrate on something you like, because when I got low, there was nothing that you could have brought me around. I love Arsenal Football Club, and I never miss a football match. I wouldn't be interested in even reaching for a remote control to get it. So it's easy for me to say, but you've really, really got to work at it. You've really got to decide, can I carry on being in this darker place, or am I going to try and look for a little bit of light to get me out of it? And that's the decision you've got to make. And it's probably in some similar ways to, I would imagine, never been an alcoholic, but you've got to make a choice. You really have got to make a choice. And with anything to do with mental health, it's about spiraling downwards or trying to climb out of it. And you have to climb out of it, because it will take you. And when I made my decision to end it, I was very comfortable with it. Like I just said about the telephone, I was very, very comfortable with it. It was almost like, planning on going over the Arsenal. It was that day would be the day. If I have one more knockback from these hospitals or these doctors, or they tell me something, one more thing, right? I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to go I wasn't scared of it. There was. It's really hard to get it across to someone. It's quite satisfying to know that this pain is going to end. I get up in the morning. I'm looking in there because that's where all my tablets are. Sorry, but I take a handful of tablets to get me started in the morning. I sit on the edge of the bed and my legs are shaking, and it's like I've got Parkinson's sort of thing. All my toes have curled up. It takes a while to get going. When I get in the shower, it feels like someone's got some barbed wire on a stick and you're hitting my legs, and that's the water flicking onto my legs because of the nerve damage in my system. By the time I get to work in the morning, right, I feel like I've had a battle just to get there. And you'll get other people come in and they're moaning about, there was a tractor in front of them and it was pissing them off because they had to drive to work slowly, and that's a drama, So a lot of people got no idea what a real drama is. But like I said, going back to it, all people are different. They're all very different. You've got to find that spark, and only you can find it. And once you find that spark, you've got to work on trying to make it into a flame and a bit of brightness. And you really have to want it. And again, repeating myself, I'm sorry, but it must be like drugs. It must be like alcohol. There's got to be a turning point for you when you're at your lowest and something clicks where you've got to stop. Even if it was someone getting arrested and put in prison, and it got them out of drugs, or it got them off of drinking. There's got to be something that's got to get you out of it, but then you've got to maintain it. Because I went into hospital the other week for my last operation, and I sat there from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. to have an obnoxious arse of a professor tell me the operation's cancelled. And that knocked me backwards that weekend. My on that Friday, and this was 3 weeks ago. So I'm Mr. Positive talking to you, right? My problem hasn't gone away. My mental health has not gone away. This is an everyday fight until the day I go. On the Friday morning, my GP, because I discharged myself on the Thursday night, and because of the way the professor spoke to me and how he treated me, I didn't want him to operate on me the next morning because he said, "Oh, we do it tomorrow." But he was very, very rude. But on the Friday morning, my wife took Henry to kindergarten, and my doctor, my GP, contacted me and said, "Could you pop in to see me?" When my wife come home, I wasn't in. Right now, she had seen me at my worst again on that Thursday night, which was only 3 weeks ago. Right, and come home and I wasn't there. Now she's seen a different side of. I've been writing a book just recently, and she's hearing things that she didn't know nothing about. So all of a sudden, she's hearing about me and the Ida Dam and me and wanting to kill myself. She's come home from taking my son to school to an empty house and the car's gone. She rang me up, and I was with my GP, and she was frantic. She was crying down the phone. She was frantic because she thought I'd gone out to kill myself. This was only 3 weeks ago. So I had that setback, and I'd gone right. So I'd gone from building myself up to here and talking about lights and a cinder can turn into a flame and all them positives, and I went right down like a roller coaster over one thing, and then again start clawing myself back out of it because on the Sunday afternoon I had to drive back to Holland, leave my family, and start working again, and put on that brave face and get in front of the team I'm working with in excess of 100, with 600 people that I'm kind of overseeing out on site with all the different contractors doing different disciplines. So I had to put on the brave face and carry on with it. But I do know if I didn't have to go and do that, putting on the brave face, I don't know whether I could have pulled myself out of it again. And that was only 3 weeks ago. So it's hard. It really is hard. It's an onward battle. So onward and upward. I'm writing a book now, so that's very therapeutic as well. So quite good fun as well.
Here's a question for you then, Alan. There's so much support now there for you. There's Samaritans, there's Mates in Mind, there's Lighthouse Charity, there's suicide helplines, there's so much support, and it's all free of charge. There's even, obviously I know you're in Germany, but in UK we've got, I believe, the 111, which now has a mental health crisis line, and there's so much support out there. Why did you never reach out to anyone? Like, why didn't you just pick up the phone?
Because my mentality was that no one knew what I was going through. So anyone I spoke to would be a trained listener, but would not understand what I'm going through. And I'm the sort of person, and this sounds absolutely mad. The more I think about myself, I think I am mad. This sounds
I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not.
But what I'd rather do, right? I use Facebook. I go on to groups on Facebook, and this is what I was going to say earlier. And sorry, I digressed when you were asking about people, if they feel a bit low. Facebook groups with complete strangers. You will always find a Facebook group or a social media group that people are going through what you're going through, no matter what you're going through, right? And they're strangers, and you will never feel uncomfortable talking to them. And I found a group. Now, this disease I've got is quite rare. Do you know how many people are on our group? 78 from all around the world, right?
No way.
So I found this group, and we're all going through it, but we all understand each other. So instead of me ringing the Samaritans or someone else, I've been speaking to people in America or New Zealand or people that have gone through what I've gone through, or I'll be talking to people that are now going through what I've been through so I can talk to them, sort of thing. And I found that really, really helpful. But what I like to do, I like to from like what we're doing now will make me feel great for the next week or so, right up until I go away, because I've let everything out. This is my therapy sort of thing, and that's why I want to become, as you know, I'm not uncomfortable talking. I can definitely talk, but I want to become a public speaker. I want to help people. I want people to hear my story, and if people want to contact me, they can contact me. I'll sit and listen to you, and I wouldn't. All I could ever tell you is what I did. I would never try and tell you what you should do, because again, I've not got cancer. So if someone had cancer and they were talking to me about their feelings and how they feel, I can listen to you, and I could talk to you about my issues. That's the reason I never contacted the Lighthouse or whatever. But I've been in talks with the Lighthouse charity, and I've had a few talks, and I've had some. I've got something coming up with them where I can talk and I can help people. So I don't know if I want to help others, which will help me. If that does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I
I think
think
that's interesting concepts
my
you've got there, Alan.
me helping others will, this is an unfortunate turn of events what I've got, and it's just made me think different, completely different.
Yeah.
I was the sort of bloke that was, if a train got cancelled and I was in Berlin and I was trying to get home to my wife after working away for 2 weeks, I'd be ranting and raving down the phone, not at her, but these fucking trains, this
Mm.
and then what happens is you just get to that stage where you think, me shouting and screaming ain't going to make this train. They're not going to all of a sudden put one on for Alan because he's got the hump, are they? So, yeah, my outlook on life has changed a little bit, not a little bit, a lot. I'm not the person I once was, and I just want to help people, to be quite honest. And that might sound a bit strange, but you get so if you're in a position where you've got a disease like I have, to be talking to other people that are struggling is a lot more of what's the wording? You're a lot more comfortable with people that are struggling than you are people that aren't. That
Mm.
I feel judge me. I've got people in work. I don't care what anyone says. Every day of the week they're judging me, and I have to prove to them that I can do this job standing on my head because I've done it for 40 years. But now I'm actually acting like I did 20 years ago when I did have to prove that I could do it, because I've now
Yeah.
got this disability I'm carrying around with me. So yeah, that's a long way around saying it, but that's the reason I never reached out to any of the charities that would
Lifelines.
different sort of thing. But that was just me. But I would recommend to anyone to reach out. Reach out, use these. They're there for a good thing. So reach out to them. I chose not to, but that's me. So
Absolutely. And also, I want to add to that. There's counselors, there's therapists, there's professionals in their industry who have specialized in that excess of trauma and that excess of mental health issues that are ready to support. And if
yeah,
there's anyone listening to this and they're at that stage, please, like, honestly, I urge you to contact Samaritans, Lighthouse Charity, Shout UK. There's so many mates in mind, suicide helpline. There's so many charities who are open 24/7 to help you. And also, if you're one of those guys who doesn't want to seek charity, because there is, and I think this is an important conversation, men don't always like to seek charity because of the word charity. There's a stigma around it. If you're a man and you've stood on your own 2 feet your whole entire life, then that's cool. Go pay for a counselor, go pay for a trauma specialist. They're not crazy expensive, and they will be there to help you. And similar to you now, Alan, like, talking is your therapy. Well, that's exactly what you'll be doing with a coach or a counselor or a therapist. That's exactly what it is. It's talking about your emotions and understanding what's going on, and there'll be no judgment. It's a judgment-free space. So there is support out there. So anyone who's going through this hardship, please just seek support. Like, just do it. Just pick up the phone and run with it.
yeah, totally
And
agree with
you,
you. Totally agree.
You mentioned just, I think I did get this right, but you mentioned you've got a book. You're writing a book. What's all that about?
Yeah,
What's
the thing is, I'm writing a book. I was I was born in the '60s, the youngest, and we were in two bedrooms in slums in Islington that had outside toilets, shared a kitchen downstairs. Tin bath was actually on top of the toilet outside, so that was brought in on a Friday. Your dad went first,
hmm
and all the kids went in afterwards, sort of thing. And it was quite a rough upbringing. I got into a it was rough. I got into a bit of football hooliganism and, weren't scared of too many people. I did kickboxing, bit of a geezer, right? So my book is going to be, it's called If It Can Happen to Me. My website is called If It Can Happen to Me. And I've got this, breaking the silence heading on it. I want this book to be about my journey, the disease, the crying myself to sleep, the dark place, the planning on suicide, the pulling myself through it, the everyday battle that I'm still going through, like what happened 3 weeks ago. But I've had to write, in my opinion, to make this book have an impact, I've got to highlight the fact that I am from a rough area, right?
Mm.
I have been involved in the football stuff. I have been stabbed. I had 48 stitches when I was unconscious, and some Liverpool fans cut me with a Stanley knife. So I have been a bit of a boy, right? I used to have a lot of men working for me when I supplied labour. So you couldn't be a wimpy type bloke when you've got all these builders working for you. But I've gone from that bloke who had a presence down to a wreck. And I was a wreck, right? So my book is not a book about football hooliganism. That's a section, but I've got to have this really impactful. He was a bit of a bloke to
Mm.
highlight the fact that I got so low that it can happen to anyone. So
Mm.
please don't ever think that you can't ask for people to think you're weak. It doesn't matter what people think about you. It really
Mm.
doesn't matter if anyone thinks bad of you. And that's why I'm highlighting everything. I'm sitting here now talking to you. I wear nappies every day. I go to work in nappies. Everyone in the office knows I go to work in nappies, right? I've got a module, a pacemaker in my back, like the ones for your heart, and it's
Mm.
connected to my spinal cord, and it controls my sphincter, right? So I don't poo myself, because sometimes I poo myself. I won't go on an aeroplane anymore because I'm terrified. I'm not terrified of the plane crashing. I'm terrified of pooing myself, having to go into that little cubicle and try and clean myself up, right? How a geezer and a bird can join the Mile Eye Club in one of them little toilets, I don't know, because I would dread trying to clean myself up in one of them little toilets while there's a queue of people waiting outside. So I won't go on an aeroplane anymore. I'm driving everywhere. Our summer holidays are now going to places in Germany or France or whatever to seaside resorts, but we drive to them because I'm just not ready to go on an aeroplane. So my life is completely changed. So I want the book to be really hard hitting and more hard hitting than a presentation would be, unless you judge the audience. I mean, if for argument's sake, HSBC said to me, we'd like you to come and do a talk, I'm not going to
Mm.
talk about hooliganism. I'm not going to go, oh, I was a bit of a geezer and, all that stuff. But if I went onto a building site, I've got to really hit them people on that building site that you're the same as me. We're geezers. We do go out and have a drink. We do. So it happened to me, and I'm now telling you that I was pissing my pants, I was shitting myself. These blokes are going to listen and think, hell, yeah, you can talk to people.
Mm.
And that's why I want the book to be of a different level than any presentation I'm going to do, because people will start, if they've read the book, then come to a presentation. That's completely different. But I wouldn't want the football thing to put people off and start judging me before they realise what the book's about. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got to have a high before you get to the low, before you try and bring yourself back out again. I think it'd be a nice book to read because I think some of it's quite funny. it's some people that are of an age, of a vintage, will resonate with it when I'm talking about TV shows that were on in the 60s and 70s. And, it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting.
What's it
And
called?
it's called If It Can Happen to Me. I mean,
Oh, it's
it's
actually
that
called
everything I'm doing about is if it can happen to me, because
that.
it happened to me out of nothing. No warning, no nothing.
Alan, can I say something? I just want to say something. Like, it takes so much courage and so much bravery to actually admit those things. And, not honestly, I would say, like, barely anyone knows this about me. But I also, when I was younger, I was also
Mm.
using the self catheter. I could not pee. I could not pee to save the life out of me. Like, it could take me 20 minutes just to actually urinate. I stopped using urinals completely because I couldn't do it. And I know, honestly, I know the trauma you have to go through to put a pipe like 30 centimeters long down your, dilly dally. You know what?
Yeah,
I
I've
can
got to do it.
completely
When
relate
this
to
is
it.
finished, I've got to do it. No.
Honestly, I used to
Yeah,
have to do it twice a day,
but
morning
I've
and
got it for
night.
the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah,
That's mad.
I've got to do
It's
it for the rest of my life. That's my worst thing. It's not a little illness or a little bug or a bladder infection that has done this. This
mm,
is life now, and things are slowly getting worse. So, they're saying to me, when you get to 6 times a day, we're going to have to look at what the next step is. So,
mm,
could you imagine doing that 6 times a day?
mm. That's
Just the
that's
thought of it.
hard.
I mean,
You know what?
so far I've only done it 6 times, and 2 have gone in smoothly. I'm crossing my legs as I say this.
Yeah, yeah,
2 have
yeah.
gone in
I get that.
smoothly, and the other 4 I've been twisting around, and the tube's been bending, and you feel
Yeah,
your eyes rolling back in your head sometimes. So yeah, it's not easy.
yeah. Out of all the fetishes in the world, I bet you wish you had that one now.
Yeah,
I
that would
remember
be
back in the day,
bring
I
it
used to
on.
think
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
getting these
six
tubes
times,
for free every month.
mate, 6 times a day. That's nothing. Keep it
Yeah,
coming. No. But
yeah.
no, honestly, I can.
The
Here's an
thought of it,
interesting one. When I had the bag, so I had
yeah.
the balloon, then the catheter, and then the bag attached to my leg. Mate, I used to be on trains and coming home. But I remember this one time. This is me sharing like how much. Like, there's not enough knowledge about this, right? I went into a building that I had worked in for about a year, but I quit and then I started my own thing. And I just went in. I spoke to a security guard that I actually knew, and I said to him, "Mate, I've got a catheter stuck to my leg. I desperately want to just get rid of, yeah, empty it, yeah." I said, "Look, I've worked here. You've got a loading bay toilet. Like, it's right there. You can stand outside of it. It will take me no more than a couple of minutes. Want to wash my hands, jump on a train, head home." He was like, "No." I was like, "Please, like, seriously, I don't want to use Liverpool Street Station bloody toilet because they're horrendous." I was like, "Please let me just use this. It will take no more than a couple minutes." He was like, "No," but I'm like, "I don't need to go in the building. The loading bay is there. You let your delivery drivers use it. Let me use it." No. And you think to yourself, there's so many men struggling with this at the moment. It's actually fairly common. And you think to yourself, God, there's no way near enough support around it. But also, it's because men don't really talk about this. It's not something that's, oh, let me go tell my mate I've got a catheter. It's not something that you talk about. But I think men should talk about this. It's so bloody important, and it really does affect so many men. So, thank you for sharing that.
I keep getting told how tough I am, how tough I am. And I don't believe I'm tough. It may look like it to other people because I'm open, I'll tell you what's going on, and I get up and I do this fight every single day.
Mm,
But all I say to people is that I've got no choice. They tell
mm,
me I've got a choice because I could give up, but I don't see that as a choice.
mm,
So, the other thing that I think is important, and it might sound cliched, is that me and you are sitting here talking.
mm,
We spoke earlier before we come on it, your Indian heritage, right? I'm British, and our families have survived disease. They've survived animals trying to kill them for thousands and thousands, millions of years. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? And then you want to take your life, something that is a blip in the world in in life, in the cycle life, and you want to take your life. You know, I think that I read somewhere it's like 1 in 7 trillion chance that you're born, and then you want to go and take your life. I might have ancestors that stood beside Richard the Lionheart. You don't know, and then you're going to go and end it. So, for me, I've just started to think very, very different to how I used to think.
Do you think?
Life is a lot more precious to me now.
Do you think we're all here for a purpose, a reason?
Honestly, I know you might want me to say yes, but I don't. I'm not religious. I don't think there's. I don't look at life like that. I think it's pure luck that we are here, and we've got to embrace that lucky opportunity we've had to have some life. So no, I don't think we're all here for a reason.
Can I give you my perspective on that one?
Yeah, definitely.
I do believe we're here for a purpose, and I do believe we're here for a reason. And the truth is, right, your purpose may shift over the years, but I feel for you, Alan, your purpose now is to provide help to those who are in a really shit space. You've got a book, you want to be a keynote speaker, you're doing podcasts, you're also being a man who don't talk about typical shit like catheters, nappies, shitting themselves. But then you're an absolute geezer who's been stabbed. Mate, you've got a purpose, and you may not believe it. And I'm not talking about religion, by the way. I'm not religious either. And if my mum ever heard that, she'd beat me. But I'm not a religious guy. But on the same token, I do believe we're here. We're the lucky ones to be here, and we're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. But obviously, there's two guys with two different ideas, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But the thing is, listening to what you're saying, maybe I am here for that purpose, but I don't. I'm quite humble with the whole thing. I don't look at it as being here for a purpose. I just look at that's now the route I'm going to go down. And maybe if it is for a purpose, maybe if you ask me that question again in 2 years' time, and I've because I'm just starting out on this. My contract at work ends March next year, and my plans are if I can't physically carry on working, this will be my job, and I really, really want to do it. Physically, I'd be able to handle it because I could book in coming back to England so many times a month to do talks and hopefully get to do them in Holland or other English-speaking places. The book I'm not doing for money, but, I might have to self-publish. I don't quite understand all that stuff yet, but that's got to come. The book's not about trying to earn £1 note. My sister said to me, I hope it's really successful and you can, I think it was my sister, someone said it to me, I hope it's really successful and you earn a lot of money out of it. I'm not doing it for that. I don't know why I'm doing it, other than the fact that I want people to read it and understand that you can pull yourself out of anything, in my opinion. So that's why I want to do it. So maybe there is a purpose. Maybe there is a purpose. Maybe I'll see it differently once I've been around a few places. And I've had people. I delivered a presentation to 100 people for the company I work for, and someone contacted me that afternoon and said, I'm really, not Al because they didn't know me, Alan, I'm really sorry that I missed the start of your podcast, your presentation. But I walked in the office and there was a couple of people crying with tears running down their face. And so I had to find out what they were listening to. I put it on and I couldn't believe how powerful it was. And when are you going to do it again? Because I'd like to hear the start. So that made me feel great. Not that I'd made people cry. The fact that someone had said to me that it had an impact and they want to hear it. That made me feel absolutely brilliant. I've gone goose pimply now saying it, actually. It just made me feel really good that someone actually, it come across with feeling. And I was talking no different to how I'm talking to you. I wasn't standing up there crying doing it. But it was affecting people and maybe bringing back memories of people that were ill, grandparents or something. But it affected a few people in that office, so it was impactful, and that's what I want the book to be.
That's amazing. Can I ask you another question? How does it feel, and how do you overcome being judged? Because I think obviously your circumstances are quite extreme. whereas other people's circumstances ain't as extreme. But as you said, rightly so, for them, that is the biggest thing and their biggest problem in their life. How do you overcome like that feeling of being judged?
You start to care about yourself more than you care about what others think.
Mm.
If you're worried about what people think of you, you're going to make yourself ill. I don't remember who said it, probably one of these really famous philosophers, but there was the old, if you put all of your problems of all the people in the world in a great big pile, you would end up picking yours up and running a mile. Right. And I think if you start to care about yourself and worry less about others, you'll always find yourself in a better place. And when you stop caring about what others think, you will start seeking help. You'll start listening to people that are qualified to help you. I worry about what I'm saying this, but I worry about what people think. But I worry about what people think to a certain extent. I worry about if when people see me walk when I'm tired towards the end of the day or the end of the week, I do look like I've just come out of the pub, right?
Okay.
And I'm conscious of it. So I could be walking along, coming off a site, just at the same time that 100 blokes are going for their tea break and they're walking behind me. That's when I worry about what people think. And I'm thinking, what are they thinking? Do they think this geezer's taking drugs? Do they think, oh, he's, because I do walk like I'm drunk. There's no two ways about it. When I'm not at work, I use a crutch because it supports me. It gives me the confidence. If it rains, I don't have to worry so much about slipping. But when I'm at work, I can't have a crutch at work. So therefore, you do see, not so much at the beginning of the day, but later on in the day when my legs are feeling it, because I'm not getting the blood flow through my spinal cord down to my legs. So when I run out of energy in my legs, they start to do I've described it. Could you imagine the old pantomime horse where you got the bloke at the front and the bloke holding his waist with a horse trade?
Yeah.
Imagine you having a row before they go out on stage. That's what my legs are like. So the top half of the body is, we're fine. And they're going, I'm fucking doing it. So my legs can go in different directions and jump around a little bit. So I get conscious, and I've got some strong characters at work, some strong characters. So I do think sometimes that I have to prove myself, but it's not an ongoing battle because I've told people that I've got nappies on. What can they think of me? I'm more of a man than they'll ever be. So don't worry about it. If you've got someone who's absolutely got the bollocks to stand in front of a group of blokes and go, wear nappies, mate. I've got a bag of piss stuck to my leg. Do you know what I mean? I on occasion poo myself and I don't even know it's happening. What can they judge me on? Truthfully, what can they judge me on? So, what I'll say to people is start caring about yourself and stop caring about what you think other people think. Because me and you could get up and do a presentation, right? And we'd be shitting ourselves about what people think. We'd be nervous when we go out. When you see a person do a presentation, do you ever judge them? You don't. You listen to what they're saying. I had a health and safety man today, hour and a half. He'd done a PowerPoint. Not once did I look at him and judge him. It was just Declan talking.
Yeah.
But you'll get up there all nervous, thinking, "Oh, well, if I get this word wrong, or I get." No one cares. No one really cares. So that's what I would say. Care about yourself and less about others. Not less about what others think. That would be my overall. And when it comes to seeking help, that's the thing. It's for you, not for others. Don't worry about others.
You know what? That's spot on advice. I absolutely love that. And there's something else that you touched on again, and I kind of want to understand how the relationship is now with you and your partner, because you know what? Let's be real, right? When people, pardon, if we speak about catheters, I'm pretty sure this one's all right. But now I want to know, like, obviously, she's been through an extreme amount of pain alongside you, different pain, emotional pain, as well as where you've been through emotional and physical, I guess. how is your relationship now? Like, how have you guys managed to stick through it? Because as a couple, you always, no matter what people say, you always take on each other's pain and you always have to find solutions around it. And how have you as a couple stuck it out, especially with kids?
Maybe I'm lucky. I'm just lucky, very lucky man.
There's,
I would, if she had this, I would swap and take it as a heartbeat for her, just as she would for me. And I struck gold. I'm lucky, I'm very lucky. She's been through hell, and I don't really know what else to say about that. I wasn't expecting a question like that. I don't
sorry.
know. No,
Fair enough.
it's fine. It's just that sometimes we forget about the people that care about us, and that's why you've got to stay alive. That's why you've Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. And sorry if I've touched a bit of a nerve
No,
there.
it's
Like,
right.
but Alan, like, I know we've come up to like our hour, and I just want to say, like, what a story you've got to share, and I'm genuinely excited about when are you publishing your book? When are you publishing it?
Well, that's the $1 million. I only get to do, because of tiredness and all that stuff, I get to do a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. Over weekends, I can knock out a few pages. I want to be done within the next 3 or 4 months. I would say summer would be, towards the end of the summer, I would have had plenty of time with, brighter evenings and things like that, where you're not getting dragged down by the darkness and all that stuff. So within the next 4 or 5 months, I would like to be done with it. And I've got people that have published, like the story. I sent the first 25 pages to someone who's published a lot of books and been a ghostwriter for people. And I said to him, right, what do you think? And he wrote back and put in letters. He wrote back, received it, finally got round to reading it. Sorry it took so long. And he said in 2 words, and he put in capitals, fucking brilliant. So that's made me want to start writing even more now, because I know I'm doing it right. So, but that took about a week and a half, 2 weeks for him to report back, which I just stopped for them 2 weeks because I thought I'm not going to do another 25 pages to find out I've done 50 and it's wrong, and I've done 15,000, 20,000 words to find out I'm going down the wrong route and no one would be interested. So luckily I got it right. So it's given me the, let's get on with it now.
Nice. I'm well excited because as soon as you publish it, please let me know, because
Yeah, we'll do.
I'll be one of the first to buy it because I'm excited to read it. And honestly, I just want to say again, like, thank you so much. I know this is super late in the evening, especially because you're an hour forward to you. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so open, so vulnerable, sharing your story with no hiding behind anything. Honestly, yeah, like, what a fantastic story you've got to share, and I want to wish you all the best. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, mate. You're doing the same job I'm doing. It's highlighting it to everyone. I should be thanking you as well, mate.
Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork, definitely.
Well, until next time, thank you, Alan. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Honestly, the more people we reach, the more support we can offer. And don't forget, Onward Shift isn't just a podcast. We've got a number of resources on our website, so please don't forget to check out www.onwardshift.com, where you'll find counsellors, keynote speakers, coaches, blogs, and so much more. Until next time, don't forget to keep having these important conversations.